Have you ever looked at that smartphone sitting on your counter and felt a little intimidated? Maybe a wave of frustration, or even a flicker of resentment? If you've ever felt that this little glass and metal rectangle is more of a source of stress than a helpful tool, you are not alone. So many of us have been told, in one way or another, that we need to keep up with technology, but nobody ever seems to slow down and explain how in a way that makes sense. Instead, we're bombarded with a constant stream of notifications, updates we never asked for, and a lingering anxiety about pressing the wrong button. And underneath it all, there's a deeper, more troubling fear that some people have started talking about. It's this idea of digital dementia, a nagging worry that by relying on our phones for things like phone numbers or directions, we're actually making our brains weaker. That technology, instead of helping us, is slowly eroding our most precious asset, our mental sharpness. Well, I'm here today to tell you that this fear, while completely understandable, is not supported by the facts. In fact, the most comprehensive scientific research points in the exact opposite direction. I want you to hear this loud and clear because it's so important. A massive scientific review, a meta-analysis published in the prestigious journal Nature Human Behavior that looked at data from over 400,000 adults, came to a stunning conclusion. They found that regularly engaging with digital technology is not linked to a weaker brain, but is actually associated with a 58% lower risk of developing cognitive impairment. Let me say that again. A 58% lower risk. This turns that whole digital dementia idea on its head. It suggests that this device you might be fearing can actually become one of your most powerful allies in the quest to maintain a sharp, engaged, and resilient mind as you age. The goal of our conversation today isn't to turn you into a tech wizard. It's not about learning every single feature of your phone. It's about building confidence. It's about shifting your relationship with this technology from one of fear or frustration to one of empowerment. We're going to do that by focusing on 3 simple, practical habits. These aren't abstract theories. They're real-world actions you can start taking today to use your phone to genuinely boost your brain power. Now, before we dive in, a quick but important reminder. I am an expert in this field of research, but I am not a medical doctor. The information in this video is for educational purposes and is based on the latest scientific evidence, but it should not be taken as a substitute for advice from your personal physician or a qualified healthcare provider. Always consult with them for any personal health concerns. We're going to start by clearing away some of the hype and misinformation you've probably seen online. Then, we'll walk through our 3 core habits, one by one. And finally, I'll give you an empowerment toolkit with some very practical tips to make your phone physically easier to use. I promise you this. By the end of our time together, you will look at that phone on your counter in a completely new light. Not as a threat, but as a tool for a richer, more connected, and mentally sharper life. So, let's begin by tackling the biggest myth out there. You've seen the ads, I'm sure. They pop up everywhere, promising to boost your IQ or reverse brain aging with just a few minutes a day of playing their special games. I'm talking about the world of brain training apps, and it's completely understandable why they are so appealing. The promise of a simple, quick fix to a deep-seated fear is incredibly powerful. Who wouldn't want to believe that playing a fun little game on their phone could keep their mind sharp as a tack forever? The companies that make these apps, like Lumosity, have made billions of dollars because they tapped into that very real desire. But here is where we have to be respectful, intelligent consumers. We have to look behind the curtain of those flashy advertisements. The truth is, There is a massive debate within the neuroscience community about whether these brain games actually work, and the evidence is not on their side. Many studies have shown that while you might get very good at playing that specific game, matching the colored shapes faster, or remembering a longer sequence of flashing lights, those skills almost never transfer to the real world. Getting good at a memory game on your phone doesn't mean you'll be any better at remembering your grocery list or the name of the new neighbor you just met. It's like practicing your free throws in basketball and expecting it to make you a better swimmer. The skills just don't carry over. In fact, the claims made by some of these companies were so overblown that the government had to step in. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, actually sued the creators of Lumosity for deceptive advertising. The company was forced to pay a $2 million settlement because they simply could not back up their grand promises with credible science. So choosing not to spend your time or your money on these apps isn't a sign that you're behind the times. It's a sign that you are a savvy, discerning individual who values real results over marketing hype. You're making an empowered, intelligent choice to seek out what truly works. The first transformative habit is this: become an active creator, not a passive scroller. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You sit down for what you think will be just a few minutes to check Facebook or look at a few news headlines. You start scrolling. You see a picture of a friend's vacation, a video of a cat, an angry political post. You keep scrolling. Before you know it, 45 minutes have vanished. You look up from your phone, feeling, well, how do you feel? A little drained? A little numb? Maybe even a little bit down. Now, let's imagine a different scenario. You pick up that same exact device, but instead of opening a social media app to scroll, you open a different app with a clear purpose. Maybe you open YouTube, not to watch random videos, but to find a tutorial on how to properly prune the rose bushes in your garden. Or you search for a beginner's lesson in Spanish, a language you've always wanted to learn. Or perhaps you open your photo gallery. But you're not just flicking through pictures. You decide to start a project, creating a digital photo album for your eldest grandchild's upcoming birthday. You go through years of photos, selecting the best ones, putting them in chronological order, and most importantly, using the phone's features to write a little caption for each one. This was your first trip to the beach. You were so scared of the waves at first. Or, here's you and Grandpa Bob. He was so proud of you on your first day of school. Can you feel the difference? In the first scenario, you are a passive recipient of information. Your brain is in low gear. In the second, you are an active creator. Your brain is on fire, in the best possible way. When you learn a new skill like pruning roses, you're engaging problem-solving centers. You're processing new information, and you're planning a future action. When you create that photo album, you are diving deep into your long-term memory, a process called memory recall, which is a powerful cognitive exercise. You're organizing information, you're engaging your language skills to write the captions, and you're connecting emotionally to your past. One of the most fascinating studies in this area, published in the journal Psychological Science, took a group of older adults and had some of them learn a new, cognitively demanding skill, like digital photography or quilting. After just a few months, their memory tests showed significant improvement compared to a group that only did passive activities like crossword puzzles. The takeaway is clear. Challenge and novelty are the nutrients your brain craves. So here is your action step for this first habit. This week, I want you to choose one small creative project to do with your phone or tablet. Just one. It could be that photo album idea, Or you could commit to spending 15 minutes a day for a week watching a YouTube tutorial on a skill that genuinely interests you. It could be anything from learning to bake sourdough bread to understanding the history of the Civil War. Or you could download a free drawing app like Procreate or Sketchbook and just play. Don't worry about creating a masterpiece. The goal isn't the final product. It's the process of active engagement. You are transforming your phone from a simple distraction into a powerful tool for purpose and lifelong learning. This idea of using your phone for a purpose leads us directly into our second habit, which taps into what is perhaps the single most protective factor for long-term brain health: our relationships with other people. This habit is to use your phone to deepen your social connections, not just to like them. We all know the feeling. You're scrolling through your feed and you see a beautiful photo of your niece and her family. You tap the little like or love button. It's a nice gesture, a little digital wave from across the miles. But what happens after that? Nothing. The moment is over. You scroll on. That is a passive, low-bandwidth social interaction. It's thin. It lacks the richness of real connection. Decades of research from institutions like Johns Hopkins Medicine and the National Institute on Aging have shown, unequivocally, that strong social ties are incredibly protective for our brains. People with active social lives have lower rates of cognitive decline and dementia. Real social connection involves the give and take of conversation. It requires you to listen, to process what someone is saying, to access your own memories to tell a story, to read their facial expressions and tone of voice. This is a complex, multi-layered cognitive workout. Simply liking a photo engages almost none of these brain processes. I remember talking with a woman, let's call her Carol, who perfectly embodies this shift. For years, she felt her relationship with her grandchildren, who lived in another state, was slipping away. She saw their lives through the pictures their parents posted on Facebook. She'd like them and maybe write, "So cute," but she felt like a distant spectator. She was anxious about using the video call feature on her phone, fearing she'd mess it up or that it would be awkward. Finally, her son walked her through it, slowly and patiently. They scheduled a call for the next Sunday, and it was a revelation. Instead of just seeing a static picture of her grandson's science project, she was able to have him hold it up to the camera and explain it to her himself. She could ask him questions, hear the excitement in his voice, and see his pride. She went from being a passive observer to an active participant in his life. So here is your action step for this second habit. It's very simple. The next time you see a photo or a post from a person you genuinely care about, a child, a grandchild, an old friend, I want you to resist the urge to just hit like. Instead, I challenge you to use that as a cue. Pick up your phone and actually call them. Another powerful way to do this is to find an online community built around a passion you already have. Do you love gardening? There are thousands of Facebook groups for gardeners where people share tips, ask questions, and celebrate their successes. Are you a history buff? There are online forums dedicated to every period of history imaginable. Now, we've talked about using your phone for creative projects and for deeper human connections. But what about the day-to-day tasks that can sometimes feel like a mental burden? The constant effort of trying to remember appointments, when to take which medication, the new route to a doctor's office, or that long list of things to get at the store. This is where our final habit comes in, and it's perhaps the most practical and immediately stress-relieving of them all. This habit is to build a digital scaffolding for your life. I want to be very clear about this. Using technology to help you remember things is not a sign of weakness or a failing memory. It's a sign of intelligence, It's a strategic decision to conserve your mental energy for the things that truly matter. Think about it this way. When you go to the grocery store, you probably use a shopping list. You could try to hold all 20 items in your head, and you might even succeed, but it would take a lot of concentration. Using a list is a form of scaffolding. It offloads the simple task of remembering, which frees up your precious cognitive resources, your brain power, to focus on more complex tasks like planning and decision-making. Using your phone for reminders, navigation, and organization does the exact same thing. This isn't digital dementia. Researchers are now calling this the technological reserve hypothesis. By smartly outsourcing some of the mundane memory tasks to our devices, we build a reserve of mental energy for higher-level thinking, problem-solving, and learning. Let me tell you about my own father, a proud and brilliant man who, as he got older, started to develop some anxiety around his medication schedule. It wasn't that he was forgetful, but he spent so much mental energy worrying that he might forget. He would double and triple check the pill box, and the stress was taking a toll. So one afternoon, I sat down with him and his smartphone, and we spent 20 minutes setting up recurring daily alarms for each of his medications. We labeled each alarm: 8 a.m., heart medication; 8 p.m., cholesterol pill. The change was almost immediate. The phone became his reliable assistant. The burden of remembering was lifted, and that mental space was freed up. He was less anxious. He was more present in conversation, because that little corner of his brain was no longer consumed with the worry of remembering. So here is your action step for this third habit. Choose just one small routine task this week and build a digital scaffold for it. First, you could set a recurring daily or weekly reminder for something important. Second, the next time you have to drive somewhere new, intentionally use your phone's map application. And a third idea, use your bank's secure mobile app to set up just one recurring bill on autopay. Now that we've covered these three powerful habits, becoming a creator, deepening your connections, and building a digital scaffold, I want to give you a quick empowerment toolkit. Because knowing what to do is one thing, but feeling comfortable actually doing it is another. A major reason many of us feel frustrated with technology is that, frankly, it often isn't designed with us in mind. A recent study confirmed this, finding that 64% of adults over 50 do not feel that technology is designed for their age group. The tiny text, the overly sensitive touchscreens, the confusing icons. It's not your fault that it feels difficult to use, but you have more control than you think. First, let's tackle visibility. On virtually any smartphone, you can go into the settings menu, look for accessibility or display, and you will find an option to increase the text size. You can make it as large as you need to be comfortable. Second, if you find your fingers sometimes hit the wrong thing on the touchscreen, consider getting a simple tool called a stylus. It's basically a small pen with a soft rubber tip, and it allows for much greater accuracy when typing or tapping on the screen. They are inexpensive and can make a world of difference. And finally, and this is the most important tool in your kit, is giving yourself permission to ask for help without feeling like a burden. We live in a culture that sometimes makes us feel like we should know all of this instinctively. That is a myth. She said, "Show me, slow down. I feel like I'm being a burden," or "they just don't think Nana is smart enough." This feeling is so common, and it's often caused by something called elder speak, that patronizing, sing-song voice some people use, as if they're talking to a child. If a family member is trying to help but is going too fast or being condescending, it is okay to say, "I appreciate your help, but I need you to slow down and walk me through this one step at a time." And if you want help from an expert who is trained to be patient, There are incredible resources available. You are not alone in this. So let's bring this all together. We started today by dismantling a fear, the myth of digital dementia, and replacing it with a powerful fact that engaging with technology in the right way can be profoundly beneficial for your brain. We've set aside the empty hype of brain training games and focused on what the real science tells us works. We've established 3 simple yet transformative habits. First, to shift from being a passive scroller to an active creator. Second, to use your device not just to like, but to truly deepen your social connections. And third, to intelligently build a digital scaffolding for your life. The goal was never to become a tech genius. The goal is confidence. The goal is to look at this device and see a partner, not an adversary, a tool that you control for your benefit. It's about feeling independent, capable, and connected in an increasingly digital world. Learning is a lifelong journey, and embracing these habits is a powerful step on that path. It's a declaration that you are in charge of your tools, your mind, and your life. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which of these 3 habits, being a creator, a connector, or a scaffolder, resonated most with you? Which one feels like something you could start trying this week? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive helpful and empowering, I would be so grateful if you took a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring that little notification bell. That way, you won't miss our future conversations on living a vibrant, healthy, and empowered life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be well, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video.